Good evening, and thank you guys as always for joining us here on Speed Racing Network. We have some Wednesday night truck series action for you. I'm Greg Olenek with my co-host, as always, Brandon Domain. And Brandon, we have a very exciting truck race for everyone tonight. It is the cutoff race to get into the playoffs.
You know, I was going to love seeing this to start the playoff in the truck series, and because of the iRacing server issue a few weeks ago, we had that virtual rainout at Darlington that pushed this to the cutoff race, and it's making an exciting racetrack for these truck series drivers even more exciting because we got a lot of spots to settle for the playoff 15, and it's just that last chance to move in if you're sitting on the outside, last chance to hang on to that spot if you're just inside that top 15. We'll figure out the regular season champion. A whole lot going on, and Vegas is just one of the better races we typically have every single season.
Yeah, and I mean, we have like 6 or 7 drivers that are not safe by any means, and we have about 4 or 5 drivers looking to get their name inside the top 15, and this is practically a mini super speedway where these trucks are going to be wide open the whole time and not really able to break away from one another. So there's going to be a lot of tight racing, a lot of hard racing, and I'm sure we'll see a lot of strategy out there as well.
Yeah, it's going to be real interesting because, you know, you're looking at an 80-lap race tonight, and the way that the fuel windows are going to work, everybody's going to have to stop twice if it does go green the entire way, and it, like you said, I mean, it's going to be very similar to what we saw at Michigan, really, where it's going to be wide open for most of, if not the entire time, around this racetrack, maybe a little bit less as those tires wear and they're trying to find some grip around those turns, but it's going to lead to some interesting racing where you're going to see a lot of drafting, see some big runs down the straightaways. This could be a real exciting night with everything on the line thrown into.
Yeah, well, let's go ahead and move on now in the Healthcare Billing Incorporated pre-race show. Like we said, it's week 13 for these guys. The Gettin Lucky 120. They're going to need a little bit of luck for some of these guys to get inside that top 15 and battle for that $300 prize going to the champion in Atlanta. But right now, we are at Las Vegas Motor Speedway, and we have 80 laps and one fast repair for these truck guys. It is going to be a fast-paced 80 laps, but action-packed. I'm hoping it's like our Kansas race earlier on this year.
And that was, I think, honestly, the best race we've had at any of the levels in SRN this season. That was an absolutely fantastic race. I think with a little bit more excitement, a little bit more adrenaline, aggression that's going to be thrown into this one, it might kind of start a little bit dicey, but I think that middle portion of the race is going to stretch out. But I think that one fast repair that you see at the bottom of the screen, that might be a saving grace for some of these guys that are sitting on that bubble trying to make it into the playoffs at the end of tonight going into next week's race, because I think this is going to be real aggressive at the start and also at the finish for sure.
Yeah, and another thing for these guys too is they're not going to know where they stand out there on track. There's no live standings that are updating these guys on whether they're good or not. They're going to just have to do their best, white knuckle these trucks around, and just get everything they can get. So it's going to make for an absolutely fantastic race tonight. Well, let's go ahead and get into our league details like we always do here on the Healthcare Billing Incorporated pre-race show. 20-week fixed setup league here in SRN, one fast repair only to these truck guys. $5 a week is what these drivers are paying to race for weekly and season payouts. And as I mentioned a little while ago, $300 going to that first place champion. 5-person teams also allowed here in SRN, and they are racing for a $100 team championship as well. And that's going to be a little bit different this year with the playoff format.
Yeah, and that's something that I think we kind of glossed over at the start, honestly, is, yeah, we're focused on that individual playoff and figuring out who the 15 or the first 15 drivers are. There's going to be the 16th with the playoff lucky dog that'll be determined next week. But the team format is going to be settled tonight, too. We kind of have an idea about where that's going to play out, but we're going to settle in those brackets for these teams that are going to be facing each other once we get to next week's race in Kentucky.
Well, let's go ahead now and check out and see what these drivers are racing for tonight. And there you see it. As always, these trucks are going to be racing for a $15 prize going to the winner, tripling their entry fee. Second place is going to come away with $10. Third through fifth going to get their money back.
And that's always a nice takeaway at the end of the night. Get a top 5, a little bit of confidence boost, and you get your money back at least. And then double for second, triple for first. And there's been some guys this season really pocketing some money here on the side with racing here in the Truck Series, chipping away at $10 here and there, $15 here and there, and it does start to add up. And it's not too bad for what. We always say that this is the most exciting league. This is also, the lower level, and I hate using that term. It is the best one that came to mind, but it's the lower of the 3 series here, and you can still make some solid money in it.
Yeah, lower level in regard to I rating, but that is nothing to take away from these drivers. They are absolutely great and have put on some great shows this year. But let's go ahead now, move on to what they're racing for as far as the season payout goes. We already know that champion's coming away with $300, but second place going to come away with $150. Third place going to get $90. Fourth place going to get $60, and if you make that final 5, you're guaranteed at least $40. Sixth place going to get $30. Seventh going to get $20, and eighth going to come away with $10. So 6th through 8th going to have something to race for in Atlanta as well.
And at the end of tonight, we'll have a pretty good idea about who's going to have a decent shot to at least get a step away from this. Because keep in mind, once we start the playoffs, all the bonus points that people have picked up this season are going to apply and kind of give you that boost in the first round at least. And there's going to be some guys out here that are going to have a big head start in making it to the final 10. And then we'll cut it down after the next 3 races to the final 5. But you make that final 10, you got an 80% shot of walking away with some money.
Yeah, this being one of the weeks, the only week, as a matter of fact, that is not droppable for these drivers. Bonus points will be counted tonight, so I'm sure we will see a lot of these drivers that are already locked in out there trying to keep their trucks clean, as well as, starting on the pole or leading the lap or leading the most laps, any of that stuff. So a lot of strategy is going to be played here in the last race of the regular season. But moving on here in the Healthcare Billing Incorporated pre-race show, let's go ahead and check out the drivers that are sitting inside the cut right now. And you see about half of them are sitting in green. That means that these drivers are locked in to the playoffs, 8th through 15th, still having to get a few more points to lock themselves in.
And that's a precarious position to be in, especially if you're sitting, I would say, about 13th back, maybe even 11th back. That's going to be a pretty sketchy situation tonight, knowing that you're only about 11 points clear, things like that, if you're even in a solid spot there. But, you got guys like Jack Johnson, Kyle Wimble, Lucas Lyons. They got a bit of a good head start on everybody else. They just need a solid finish tonight. But from DuPont on back, there's a little bit of work to do to make sure that they hang on to that top 15.
Yeah, and I mean, that's not to take away, Jack Johnson doesn't have his work cut out for him tonight. It's a big field here in Las Vegas. He needs at least a 23rd place finish. So that's not the easiest to come by. So he still has some work to do, even though he's sitting 8th and about 28 points above that cut line. Kyle Wimble needing 19th. Lucas Lyons needing a 15th. Joseph DuPont needing an 8th place finish. Mosby needing 7th. And Rob Yost needing a 4th place finish to lock himself in. So a lot of work, like I said, needing to be done here in Vegas to get their spots in that top 15. These are the drivers that are looking to spoil someone's day. Cody Riggs just sitting 3 points out. Brad Herman just 4 points out. Michael York 9. Dave Fuchs Jr. running a special paint scheme tonight, trying to get some good luck out there, running 12 points out. And Winker is sitting 13 points out. These are 5 guys that can easily spoil someone's day.
They certainly can, and you look at Brad Herman and Michael York, I think those are the 2 that really stand out because they have built a lot of momentum the past few weeks, really putting together some strong runs. I think once you get down to Taylor Smith, Bruce Amston, Jason Kratke, they're in a real touchy spot there. They're still mathematically eligible, but now you got to factor in not only 24, 25, 34 in points that they have to make up, but they also have to pass at least 5 people to get the job done tonight in those point standings. That's asking a lot, and that's coming from a little bit of experience. I was 21 out, sitting in 21st, and was that 1 point shy on the Xfinity side. So it's a tough task, but it is something that can be done. So you just gotta fight for it tonight if you're one of those 3 guys sitting a little bit farther back.
Yeah, before we move on, I just want to go ahead and mention Cody Riggs has been practicing so much for this race tonight. He is really wanting to make these playoffs, and he was 10th fastest in practice, so we'll keep an eye on that 12 machine out there too. But moving on now in the Healthcare Billing Incorporated pre-race show, let's check out the team championship standings. And once again, as always, this is for seeding purposes. It'll be a totally different game, though, next week once we get into playoff action. Jonathan Byer still sitting with that 1 seed and 3 wins to their credit. Rev Racing sitting in second with also 3 wins, and Next Level Motorsports rounding out our top 3 with 4 wins for that team.
And behind them, I think really all we're sorting out now is what order is going to be between 4th and 5th. You see how close Zuyost and Tank are. And then who the do-gooders and Stryker are going to wind up facing. They're only 13 points apart. So either one of those teams could wind up 6th at the end of the night and facing Next Level. The other team will be facing Revs. Either way, that's a tall mountain to climb for either of those teams against teams that are really putting together strong runs this season.
Yeah, we'll see how it all shakes out once this race is complete. And we have the final standings on the season. But yeah, it's going to be another exciting layer to playoff season here in Speed Racing Network. But now let's go ahead and get to the team introductions and introduce you guys to some of the drivers that we're going to see out there tonight. We saw some of them already sitting inside the cut as well as outside the cut. But let's go down and break them down team by team. We got Jonathan Byer Racing up first since they're first in the standings, and they have quite a few wins. They've had a really good season so far here in SRN. Kyle Wimble in the 3, Landon Cardulo in the 13, Jack Johnson, one of those drivers, trying to lock his spot up in the 35. Jonathan Byer sitting well above that cut line in the 66 machine, and James Kerr, another one of those drivers looking to lock themselves in.
And all 5 of their drivers currently sitting inside the top 15. 2 of them, Byer and Cardulo, already locked in. But keep your eyes on the other 3, Wimble, Johnson, and Kerr. All have a top 10 finish either at Vegas last season or Kansas this season on a similar type track.
All right, well, let's go ahead and check out that second place team. It's my team, Revd Racing, and they've had quite a good season as well with some new members on board and some veterans all on the team as well. Lucas Lyons looking to get his first win in that 7 machine. Michael Madden, a win earlier on in the season in the 15. Sean Jensick has 2 wins with a win last week at Michigan in that 29 truck. Sean Kozier in the 97. And Cody Riggs is that guy sitting just outside the bubble looking to make up some points here to get in the top 15.
Yeah, the pressure is going to be on Cody Riggs tonight to try to pick up those 3 points and move inside the top 15. A little bit of pressure as well in that 7 truck of Lucas Lyons. He's had some great runs that get marred by a little bit of late trouble. It's happened a couple times here lately, including last week. So hopefully he can avoid that for his sake as he comes into tonight just 23 points clear of 16th.
Yeah, and like I said, this week cannot be dropped. So Lucas Lyons, even though he sits comfortably above that points or that cutoff line, needs a good run here at Vegas. But moving on now, let's go ahead and check out Next Level Motorsports sitting here third in the standings. They got the 5 of Michael York, who's also one of those drivers looking to get inside the cut, as well as his teammate down there with a win in the 85, Brad Herman. Both those drivers looking to get in on some playoff action. And they also have the 32 Troy Techmeyer, who's had a good season, the 43 of Stan Carnathan, as well as a newcomer, the 69 Brad Rivers, who's shown some speed out there.
Yeah, keep in mind, this team is going to be a top contender for the team title with what they've put together. A few of them had a little bit of a rough start or even a late start to the season that's knocked them out of playoff contention, at least for the top 15. But yeah, for Brad Herman and Michael York sitting within single digits from moving into the playoffs, this is going to be a bit of a pressure-filled night for those two.
And a pressure-filled night for us as well, Brandon, as we're going to have to keep an eye on all this action taking place within the inside the cut standings and seeing where these drivers stand as we go through this race. But moving on now, let's go ahead and check out the 4th place team in the team standings. And they have made quite an impression on the league this year, making a name for themselves, and that's Zuyost Racing. See it there, Don't Feed the Animals. And they have their captain trying to make his way into the playoffs again to make a push for that championship. 98 Rob Yost Jr. trying to get in on the playoffs. Dave Hughes Jr. also trying to get inside the cut. These guys are very well, Rob Yost is above the cut line. Dave Hughes Jr. is sitting about 12 points out. He can definitely manage that. Blair Holland sitting well above the cut line. He's been top 5 all season with a win to his credit in the 06, and Mike Mosby has had a really good season as well.
And keep an eye on Mike Mosby tonight. He has been very fast in practice. Ran a practice race even in the Xfinity side yesterday, just trying to get a little bit more feel on the track and just more track time, even though it's a vastly different setup that they'll be feeling between one series and the other. But all 4 of these guys have the potential to be inside the top 15 at the end of the night.
All right, well, let's move on now to the 5th place team in the team standings, and that's going to be Tank Racing. And that just goes to show how talented this truck series has been. This is the 5th place team, and they have a win to their name already, as well as Jacob Zala winning in Darlington in that 25 machine. The 26 of Josh Mueller has run really well all year. Bruce Amston has shown glimpses of speed this season in the 63. The 64 of Walt Lipicki has shown a lot of progress this season, as well as the 79 of Jeremy Duncan. So this team is really coming together this late in the season.
It's been a solid season, and Zala and Mueller both already locked in. Bruce Amston going to try to make it a 3-person team for Tank into the playoff 15. He's going to have his work cut out for him, though, 25 points out, and he's got to pass at least 6 drivers in the points to do it, but that is something mathematically that can be done.
Yeah, he'll need a little bit of help to get himself into the cut. But moving on now, we got the Do-Gooders next. And this is a first-year team here in SRN. They were around a little while ago, but, trying to make an impression here on the league this season. Have had some good runs so far. They got the 17 of Danny Setzer, the 24 of Taylor Smith, the 88 of Joseph DuPont, who is really fast out there today. Corey Knight in the 90, who we saw running up towards the front at Michigan last week, and the 239 of Joey Farrell.
And with the Do-Gooders, they have one above the cut line with Joseph DuPont sitting in 11th place. He's going to be 16 points clear of 16th. They're looking to get 2 in. Taylor Smith, 21st place in the standings, but 24 points out. So he's going to need a night very similar to what Bruce Amston would need to move himself into that cut line.
Yeah, Joseph DuPont needing an 8th place finish to lock himself into the playoffs tonight. But let's go ahead now and check out Stryker Motorsports. And Brandon, as always, this is your team, man, so take it away.
As always, I appreciate that with Stryker Motorsports, team that is fast as lightning. And they're trying to move up into that 6th spot in the team side, and they're doing so with Matt Johnson in the 1. Tevin Whitner is going to be in the 9. Don Milkowitz in the 33. Kevin Winker still eligible for the playoffs, 13 points behind the cut line in 20th. And then Travis Trevelyan, the team captain, in the 71.
Yeah, that 13-point gap definitely manageable for Kevin Winker, so we will be paying attention to that 42 tonight to see if he can make it in there. But one more team to go here in the team introductions, and that's going to be Bobby Anderson Racing. And we always mention this team is very talented, but they are sitting at the bottom of the standings because they were created a little bit later on in the season. And they have the 18 of Bobby Anderson looking to lock himself into the playoffs, but he needs a win to do that. Jason Crackey in the 54 and the 55 of Michael Amenti making up this team.
And Jason Kratke also with a bit of a Hail Mary shot, but still eligible to make it. He's going to be in 23rd place, 34 points out. He's going to need to win. Maybe he can do it with a 2nd place finish and a lot of help, but he's going to have a tremendous race tonight to move himself into the top 15.
Hey, like they said in Dumb and Dumber, you're saying there's a chance. So we'll see if he can get into the playoffs. But we have a few more independent drivers out there. Beau Tiffany has been dipping his toes in the water with these trucks and shown some really good speed out there in the 01. The 14 of AJ Pritchett was running up towards the front at Michigan last week. The 40 of Zach Burgesson out there as well as the 87 of Andrew Harris and the 93 of Brad Yonkman. So some talented drivers here as well.
A lot of talent, a lot of speed. Beau Tiffany had a great run last week, and he's been doing very well, obviously, in the Xfinity side. Andrew Harris always has a fast truck. It's just keeping it straight and keeping out of trouble. Sometimes it finds him, and that's a guy to keep an eye on tonight just for the sheer speed that he has.
All right, well, let's get out there and see what we got as far as the starting lineup goes. And the pole sitter tonight going to be Michael Madden out of Rev Racing with a 30.936 in that 15 machine. Blair Holloman sitting just to his outside in second. Jason Crackey, that driver we mentioned needing the Hail Mary, starting third tonight. Bruce Amston, another one of those drivers needing a big night and some help, starting fourth. And Joseph DuPont, I mentioned him having some speed out there. He's starting fifth tonight.
And then Sean Jensick going to be in the 6th position, trying to carry that momentum from last week going forward into the playoffs here. And starting in 7th is going to be Troy Techmeyer. 8th place, Dave Fuge Jr. 9th place, it will be Michael York, another one of those drivers that's very close to that 15th place in the point standings. Lucas Lyons trying to hold on to one of those 15 spots will be in 10th. And then row 6, Bobby Anderson and Jacob Zala.
Yeah, Bobby Anderson, like we said, needing a win tonight to lock himself into the playoffs. So, man, we have all sorts of things that we're going to be paying attention to up here. We got strategies, and this is going to be a wild track to finish out the regular season here in the Truck Series. So, Brandon, who are you taking tonight?
Well, so I'll give a honorable mention to start this. If I was just going to pick the race straight up, I would actually say it's our pole sitter, Michael Madden, and for good reason. He had a 2nd at this race last year. He led 23 laps at Kansas this year and finishing 4th. But I kind of want to focus more on the guys that are in that playoff battle and making it to the top 15. So I'm going to go with the guy starting in the 8th position, and that's Dave Fuge Jr. He is within striking distance. He's had good speed in practice, good speed in qualifying, and he's also got a great looking truck tonight. So I'm going to go and say that I'm going to keep my eye on Fuge in that 16.
Yeah, I'm going to go with one of the guys needing a big run tonight as well, sitting outside the cut and sitting a little bit further back in the pack. I'm going to take the 85 of Brad Herman starting 19th tonight. He's going to have to make up some ground in that beautiful 85 machine. And, you know, he's sitting about 4 points out of the cut, I believe. So he is going to have to make up some ground to catch up to these guys because he's got Cody Riggs starting 13th and his teammate Michael York starting in 9th. So he's going to have to get past those guys as well if he wants to make it in the cut. So I think he's going to have a determined drive up to the front tonight. So let's see how these guys do. The pace car lights, as always, are off. He is going to be pulling off the track, and the field is going to be in Michael Madden's hands for the last race of the regular season. Brandon, I cannot believe this season's gone by so quickly.
Speaking of quick, how about the jump there for the 15 of Michael Madden? He is just taking off. Gets a good 0.3 of a second advantage over Blair Holloman, who's 0.3 of a second ahead of that side-by-side race for 3rd as they hit turn 1. Fantastic jump for the 15.
Yeah, the top 10 essentially single filing out real quickly here. But like I mentioned, these drivers are not going to be able to break away from one another as quickly as they want to because this is kind of just a full throttle, you know, the whole time racetrack. So it's not like you're going to be able to pick up spots here and there. This is going to be all about the draft. And when you're making passes, we already got its car spinning. That's Cody Riggs.
Oh, no. Cody Riggs, one of our playoff-eligible drivers. And it sounds like Beau Tiffany also involved there. He is in the 0-1, but playoff-affected drama early on lap 1 coming out of turn 4, and Cody Riggs going to be the victim here. Yeah,
that is going to put some pressure in that 12 camp now as he's going to be in the back of the pack. Let's go ahead and check out our Beer Street Journal rec replay. He just gets loose on cold tires. That's just plain old simple what it looked like right there.
Yeah, he just slides it off of turn 4. Real easy to do, especially on that first lap. Like you mentioned, those cold tires. Beau Tiffany looks like it was just in the follow-through. We'll keep an eye on him in that black and pink truck. And yeah, it's a little bit of contact there with Brad Herman, another one of the playoff drivers. I think Sean Kozier, and I'm not sure who Kozier got into.
That was a weird netcode if we can take another look at that Cody Riggs spin there. He comes back up towards the track here, and it almost looks like iRacing was going to read him as hitting the 85, which he didn't. And it even showed some damage on the 12 truck and the 85. And it just kind of shoots. Yeah, that was a big netcode right there that shot Brad Herman up into Beau Tiffany there. That was the worst netcode I think I've ever seen.
Yeah, that's a real bad one. And oh, wow, a whole lot more carnage that we did not catch on the first look. James Kerr, Zach Burgesson, Jack Johnson. And James Kerr, keep in mind, he's the driver sitting in 15th on the bubble entering tonight's race.
Yeah, and Jack Johnson, we mentioned him not wanting any mistakes tonight because, like I keep saying, you cannot drop this week. So if he's already going to have to burn his first fast repair, if he gets caught in another one of these incidents, his season's done.
Man, we got 4 playoff eligible drivers all trying to make it into that top 15 involved in this lap 1 incident. And unfortunately, netcode being a big part of this one. And really, it could have just been Cody Riggs by himself.
Yeah, should have
and
been.
that netcode just winds up taking in 5-6 more trucks.
Yeah, that was just one of the worst netcodes I think I've ever seen on the sim, and that's saying something because we see this every weekend. So unfortunately for these guys, they're going to have to clean those trucks up and burn a fast repair for some of them. And some of them, Cody Riggs got real lucky there because it did reset his truck as he didn't make contact with the 85. So he looks like he came away with no damage. So big for the 12 to not have to burn that fast repair yet.
That is huge for him, and something I'm a little curious of, and I'm guessing there was some towing involved in this one. Didn't quite catch it at that time, but Sean Kozier, James Kerr, Zachary Bergeson, and Brad Yonkman all at least 1 lap down after that, so no fast repair being involved. I'm guessing that's going to be more of a Brad Yonkman didn't grid actually, so that's why he's a little bit behind. But for Kozier, Kerr, and Bergeson, I'm guessing that was a tow. If not, they just forgot to select the fast repair, which does happen to some people. But to see 3 do that, that's a bit much.
And just seeing now coming down from the admins, Cody Riggs was given that EOL for the cause caution rule there, so he is going to have some work to do if he plans on making the playoffs this season. And I just want to remind everybody that this is not a write-off for everybody if they don't make it inside the top 15. For the first playoff race, we will have a race within itself for the playoff lucky dog. So the highest finishing non-playoff driver will be eligible to compete in the playoffs as well. So this is not it for these guys, but they just want to make sure they have their spot reserved in that top 15.
Yeah, I was saying on Sunday when I first heard that rule, I was like, I don't know how I feel about that one. Now I'm like, hey, this is the greatest rule ever. I love this playoff lucky dog. We're going to ride with AJ Pritchett here.
See all the carnage and just see him get through this. I bet it's going to be something here. Just wow. Not knowing where to go. See them hands flying. He gets through it. AJ Pritchett cleanly through that caution.
Lap 1 might already have the save of the night already determined. That was fantastic from Pritchett.
You can read his mind from his hands there, just saying, "Where do I go? Where do I go? Where do I go?"
Wow, that was the PG version right there. I was thinking more the rated R version.
Yeah, we all know what we were thinking there, but yeah, that's definitely what was going on through his mind when you see those hands. But we're getting this field gridded back up to go green. And Brandon, you kind of predicted this, maybe an early caution with some big movers earlier on. And granted, this was only caused by cold tires and keeping that throttle smashed. It's going to have some trucks break loose, and we saw that happen to the 12. But this is exactly what you predicted.
It's kind of fitting with what we've seen on a lot of the truck races and a lot of the Xfinity races too. We kind of have that early caution and then get settled in. I think just with the aggression of tonight, it kind of boded that was going to be even more likely to happen, especially with some of those playoff contenders being mid-pack, if not in the back of the pack, really having to charge forward. I think at this point we might see maybe one more and then settle in. Maybe we'll just be good and settle in now that the tires warmed up. That's kind of was a little bit of an idea that was going to happen though, for sure.
Well, base car lights are off. It's going to head back down pit road where it belongs, because we are going to get back to some green flag action. Michael Madden and Blair Holloman, our front row. Let's see if he can get another big jump. We're green here again for the Gettin Lucky 120 at Las Vegas. Not as good a jump for Michael Madden, but now Blair Holloman going to have to worry about Sean Jensick, last week's winner, just on his tail. And Jason Kratky, he knows he needs that Hail Mary. He is going to be right there in the thick of it as well.
I got 4 guys now inside the top 10 that are on the outside looking in and all eligible to make the playoffs. So you also have Amston, Fuge, and York, 8, 9, and 10. There's a big look to the outside from Blair Holloman, but just those tires still kind of building up that heat. Might not have a big enough run there, but he's going to go down to the apron to try to make this pass to the inside of Michael Madden.
Carried a ton of speed out of 4. He's going to try and send it into 1 to clear the 15. Not sure if he's going to be able to this time, but yeah, he's going to have to slide up in front of the 15. Blair Holloman has the lead all to himself.
And there you see that big momentum run from the outside that Michael Madden was able to get. That's going to keep him at least a little bit side by side in line with the back tailgate there, the 06. See if he can recreate that here down the front straightaway. It's a little bit more negated on the front stretch than it is the back stretch most times because of that big bend on that front straightaway. And they're still going to be side by side for a second straight lap.
Yeah, Michael Madden choosing to stay in that middle lane, which is almost the preferred lane here. I'm surprised to see how well these trucks handle in turns 1 and 2. There's a lot of bumps on that lower lane, so they are doing very well on the inside line. And you see Joseph DuPont in the 88 up to third already. I mentioned he had a lot of speed, started 5th today. He's going to be looking to lead some laps and solidify his spot in the top 15 tonight.
Right now, top 5, all drivers inside the top 15 currently. As you got also have Jensic on the outside in that second row in the 29. Jacob Zala in the pink and black 25. It's Jason Kratke, though, starting to make a move on that outside third in line.
And I mentioned to you guys in the pre-race show, this is going to look a lot like super speedway racing. And look what we're seeing right here. 2 by 2 by 2 for the lead, almost 4 rows deep. Man, it is action-packed up front in this top 10. But no one's budging in that front row. Michael Madden, Blair Holloman still side by side. Second row going to be Joseph DuPont, Sean Jensic. And then the next row behind them going to be Jason Kratke and Jacob Zala. So a lot of big names up here. And a lot of names that are looking to inch their way into that playoff picture. So, man, this is just going to be so exciting. We're coming back to the stripe for lap 12 this time by.
And there's certain tracks and certain packages that just work perfectly. And the trucks at these tri-oval mile and a halves, it is just knocking it out of the ballpark every single time. We saw it at Kansas earlier this season. We'll probably see it again next week at Kentucky. It's just the way that these tracks are, and these trucks are so much momentum based, and the way that they're designed and the way that they move, you can go flat out through here. There's not as much strategy involved in this racing in terms of trying to save the tires, trying to save your equipment. It's just go, and we are seeing a perfect example of that here as Jacob Zala and Joseph DuPont. Little bit of contact there after DuPont got loose coming out of 4 on the inside.
Yeah, got to be careful there for Jacob Zala to hit him squarely on that bumper, but did it so. And, yeah, so the field, that's going to break it up a little bit, but our whole top 10 within a second of each other. And just behind them, check out who's in 11th. Michael York starting to make his way up through the field, and he started in 9th place now. Already back in 11th, but hanging in here with this lead pack, maybe just saving his stuff as these guys are really racing hard side by side.
And while he's making a move forward, one thing I just saw, James Kerr out for the night. Looks like he was disconnected from the server. So our bubble driver, 15th place coming into tonight, looks like he is done for the night and likely for his playoff hopes, aside from that lucky dog that can be eligible next week.
Yeah, and he will definitely be a contender for that as he's had a really good season as well as all of JBR. But, man, that is just practically the equivalent of an engine blowing in real life. You know, your service, your internet or whatever just gave up on you. And, man, not much he can do about it to get that truck back out there. So, unfortunately for James Kerr, his night's going to be done.
Back out on track, last turn by, I should say, Blair Holloman kind of starting to wash up that racetrack just a little bit, and I think that's going to be, there's a point in this run where you do kind of have to crack that throttle just a little bit because those tires do start to wear out, and I think we're starting to reach that for some of these guys on the inside line and just having to react to it, but he kind of pushed up about a group or two around 1 and 2 and nearly got into Sean Jensic in the 29.
Yeah, so our top 3 kind of single filing out, but Jason Kratke looking to get his nose in on the mix in that pink 54. And he's going to try and get to the side of Blair Holloman now. And that is not an easy thing to do. So Jason Kratke showing some really good speed out here at Las Vegas. But right now, a Revved Racing 1-2 right here up front with Michael Madden and Sean Jensic leading the way. And these guys have had a really good season so far. And why not cap it off here in the last race of the regular season, running up front for these two?
This is really the first time, aside from lap number 1, that we've seen the top 4, top 5 all kind of stretched out single file. Now it's going to be the top 7 all doing so. And that driver in 7th is the man that's sitting in 14th in points, Bobby Anderson. So he's kind of doing exactly what he needs to be doing. He would be a little bit more comfortable with a couple more positions gained, but seeing guys like Madden and Jensic and Holloman and Zala all up there, he knows that those are guys that he wants to see in front of him if there's going to be anybody out in front.
Yeah, I'm trying to do the math in my head right now with that James Kerr, DNF, and I'm guessing that that's going to give that spot to Michael York at the moment, as he is the top driver in those drivers sitting outside the cut. Dave Hughes Jr. is doing well, sitting up there in 8th, but he needs to gain a little more distance between him and Michael York if he's going to try and jump into that 15 spot. But that's not to say some other drivers will fall out of the top 15. But right now, I believe that 15th spot is Michael York's.
And that's going to be hotly contested because you still do have Dave Hughes Jr. sitting in 8th. You have Bruce Amston sitting in the 11th position, Kevin Winker in 14th. So you got some guys that are all eligible to make that move into the top 15, all still in the running there, as we see Jason Cracky go real high through 1 and 2.
Yeah, running that Larson line in 1 and 2, trying to something new, maybe find some speed here in this truck to maybe pick up some more positions, knowing he needs that Hail Mary. But just to name a few more drivers, that Brad Herman is now back in 21st. He's moved his way back up.
And James Kerr actually did get back out there, so he did get able to reconnect. But he's going to be significantly hampered, as I believe he's going to be about 10 laps down, make it 9 laps down. So, I mean, if all, what breaks loose, there's still a shot for him, but that is a big, big mountain to climb.
Yeah, he's going to have to send a prayer up to the racing gods and maybe ask for a few of these drivers that are battling to get in the cut, maybe get into some trouble here tonight, because that's going to be his saving grace. That's going to be really hard to come back from 9 laps down, but great to see him back out there, determined to try and make it into the top 15. You're running all season long, and to have an internet connection really ends your chances of making the playoffs. It just makes you sick to your stomach. So good to see him back out there. But right now we got a battle between 2 pink trucks. We got Lucas Lyons down low, Jacob Zala up high. 2 rookies this season that have run exceptionally well, battling it out for 4th.
2 rookies that have been really good, and they've both been really aggressive at times, and it's been for some exciting racing. And you can see them with that side-by-side battle. Lucas Lyons lost the position, not wanting to give it up that easily, though. So he made that nice run through 1 and 2, trying to close that gap a little bit more and maybe take a shot in 3 and 4.
Yeah, so single file for most of our top 10, top 15, and kind of starting to sort itself out through the field. So this could be the long run that we typically see at our 1.5-mile intermediate tracks. So these guys might have to buckle in and see just when that fuel window opens to maybe set themselves up for a win. And Brandon, you mentioned a little tidbit before the show. These guys get a little bit of worse fuel mileage than the Xfinity and Cup drivers.
They do, and it's going to be just a couple laps, handful of laps different. And the Xfinity side, you can get right around 40 laps. The trucks are going to be about 35 laps, maybe closer to 38 if they can stretch it out a bit. And that's just because of how easily they're able to go full throttle deeper into a run. In the Xfinity cars, you're not really able to do that. You're going to spend a lot of time, maybe 70-80% throttle in some of the turns, if not a little bit less once the tires wear. The trucks, you're going to be holding 100% maybe for the first half of the run, and then maybe just drop down to about 90% throttle after that. So they're going to be burning more fuel, and we're about 10 laps away from reaching that fuel window. Had that one caution, so we might be looking at 38 if somebody tries to stretch it. It's going to be close if somebody wants to try to make this a one-stop race, but they're going to have to do some work to do it.
Yeah, I don't think that's going to be really in the cards for these drivers. So I'm curious to see who makes that first stop, kind of undercutting the strategy to make up some time, because this, like I said, is a very hard track to make up that time. But right here, 2 of the guys outside the cut, battling side by side. Michael York on the high line, Dave Hughes Jr. on the low line. Michael York going to take that position from Dave Hughes Jr. So give the 5 truck 8th place, and he's making a move on Joseph DuPont now to go up to 7th.
And how about this pack? You have Joseph DuPont and Jonathan Byer, who are currently in the top 15, and then right around them You've got Anderson, York, Fuge. You have Kevin Winker in there as well, all trying to work their way into the top 15. This is just amazing here. And oh, by the way, you just got your points leader sitting there in the middle of this wild race.
Yeah, just Jonathan Byer doing Jonathan Byer things, minding his business. You got somebody, Zach Burgesson, coming down pit road pretty earlier than I anticipated. I don't know if that's going to really work with the undercut strategy, but yeah, we'll see exactly. I think he may have had some damage or something on that 40 truck.
He was involved in that lap 1 incident, so that might have played a factor in that one. And just coming down a little bit early, maybe had some more damage he needed to repair. But Jacob Zala getting right on that back bumper of Blair Holloman in the 06 as they went into turn 3. And Zala kind of backed out a little bit. That or just Blair Holloman gets a real deep run into 3 compared to what Zala does. But if you get a deeper run, you typically will have a slower exit of the turn a lot of the time. Here, it's not going to be as much, but that's kind of how that works out at most of these tracks and most of these cars. As they kind of start playing with the throttle a bit and searching for grip that's starting to go away in these trucks, that might be a factor here. If you drive it too deep, might face that pain going down the front straightaway.
Yeah, I always love watching Jacob race because he's our commentator on Thursdays. Such a soft-spoken guy, but man, he's one of the more aggressive drivers out there. But Dave Fuchs Jr. is going to be one of those guys coming down to perform that undercut strategy, and this is big because he is one of the drivers outside the cut looking to make up some positions. So this could be huge for the 16 if he can work off or pay off for him. Excuse me.
And I don't mind that shot that he's taking at this because it's still going to work math-wise. Like, the numbers are going to work. You're turning this into a 30 and a 20 probably. But you're sitting outside of the cut. If you're Dave Fuchs Jr., you got to take a shot at this as you're watching these guys just still running some solid laps. But by making that pit stop, he's going to pick up about a second a lap or so in trying to gain some positions here and maybe set himself up into a good spot. As you see him there, he's going to be in the 19th position in the standings, 12 points out, so he's got some work to do, and you got to take a shot at being a little bit different at times if you want to gain those positions.
Yeah, these are the drivers that we were paying attention to there. Cody Riggs already involved in that early incident. Brad Herman has made his way back up to 17th. Stan Carnathan coming down pit road for Next Level Motorsports in that 43 truck. So I think we're going to start seeing pit road get a little busy, and it looks like Next Level is starting to get the memo that, hey, it might be time to come down as Bradley Rivers also in his pit stall.
And this kind of has this feel as we're starting to hear more drivers starting to hit the driver chat that they're going to be making a pit stop here. Sounds like Bruce Amston this time is going to be one of them as Madden continuing to stretch this out. But the way that this race is going is there's Bruce Amston down pit road. They're kind of getting spread out pretty good. And that tells me that you're not going to think, oh, I need to stay out there. There's going to be something that happens when you get that mixture of old tires, new tires, a speed differential. These guys are so spread out that you almost don't want to stretch this out all the way unless you think you can make this a one-stop race.
Well, I think something you might look at here, which we may see, I could totally see Michael Madden doing this because he is one of the smartest drivers out there. He might try to stretch this thing out as far as he can. One reason being, he doesn't want anybody else to get a bonus point tonight. So maybe he stays out the whole time knowing, hey, I got nothing to lose here. I'm racing for the win. I'm going to have the faster truck than everybody after this cycle's out. That might be a strategy we want to keep an eye on. Maybe he stays out this whole time.
And there could be also with that, if he's not giving up any bonus points to anybody else, there's people that aren't able to gain any extra ground on Lucas Lyons, on his teammate, that's also racing to stay inside the top 15. Yep. Cody Riggs, we saw have that problem, but he's going to, and there he is on pit road. He's 3 points out, so that takes away those opportunities that anybody else can pick up points, knowing that Lyons and Riggs are far enough away that they're not really contending for the win at this point in the race. Try to keep those points away from other drivers.
Well, just as I say that, we're going to see Michael Madden and Sean Jensen come down this time, but that's going to give the lead to Lucas Lyons, who you just mentioned. He's going to get an extra bonus point now as he is our leader out. Well, actually, it's Michael York. Those trucks look way too similar for me, so excuse me.
I was about to say, hey, that's great strategy. It just worked out perfect. And then oh, wait, no, that went completely backwards from what I was thinking. Michael York staying out. He's going to pick up that bonus point for leading a lap, and that's big for the driver. 9 points out coming into tonight's race. And here he comes to pit road along with Jonathan Byer in second.
Yeah, Michael York running an absolutely perfect race so far. He played that perfectly. He got that point that he needed. He's kept that truck clean so far. So he is racking up bonus points left and right, bringing it down pit road so he doesn't lose too much time from those guys that he was running with. But now Landon Cardulo, the candy man, as I like to call him, for that Ghirardelli Chocolates number 13 Tundra, now out in front. And that's big. This is what I just mentioned, possibly Michael Madden trying to stop others from doing. This is one of our playoff drivers who's now getting an extra bonus point to his credit for when it starts. I'm telling you, a lot of people forget about these bonus points, and it's going to be so important coming that first round. Kyle Wimble gets loose.
And that could be big. Now, Wimble in one of the better positions for those guys trying to hang on to the top. And Michael Madden back on pit road, actually. That might be kind of taking the lead there from Wimble with that near spin. But Madden a second trip down pit road.
Yeah, he might have been speeding on exit or entry here. See if he comes down for service or not. He's going to probably, maybe do a stop and go. Might have forgot fuel in that 15. We don't really know what's happened to that 15. We'll try and get a word with him if we can talk to him under one of these cautions if we ever have another one. But man, that's big for the who was the race leader. Now going to be a lap or two down as he's still on pit road stopped.
And what that signifies to me is he might have crossed the line too early. Coming off the apron back onto the racetrack. I think that's typically going to be about that kind of a time length penalty. So 45 seconds. That sounds like that would be an early exit back onto the racetrack.
Man, that is huge for Madden as he was well in control of this race. But the man that we saw come down pit road now well in control as he's got a 2 1/4 second lead over Sean Jensick, who's now sitting up in second now, as he was one of the last cars to come down pit road. So the Jensick machine going to be a little faster than Dave Fuchs Jr. We'll see if these tires equalize out, and maybe Dave Fuchs Jr. hits a home run here and runs away with this thing.
This is a fantastic call from Dave Fuchs Jr. No surprise there. Dude's got some experience with strategy when it comes to a race, and he had the right idea here. Be the first one down pit road on that. Do that little bit of an undercut. He set everybody else into that timing where, Jensick came in 2 laps later. Holloman came in 1 lap after Fuchs did. So the tire differential isn't going to be terrible here, and he was just so much faster for those couple laps that he shot himself from 8th all the way up to the lead.
Yeah, and you see there the time differences right there. A 1/10 of a second, not going to really help Jensick out too much. He's going to need to pick up some more ground. But where are you going to find that when this race is just full throttle the whole time around? So Jensick really going to have his work cut out. Going to have to work with Blair Holloman to potentially catch this 16 of Dave Hughes Jr., who is needing a perfect race to make up those 12 points that he needs to get inside the cut, and doing a great job of it so far.
And the one thing, too, is that 1/10 of a second. Now, if you take the draft factor out of it, that's on that 1/10 of a second a lap. Yeah, you think, all right, in 20 laps they'll catch him. But at the same time, that's going to fade. You're going to level out probably in about 15, 18 laps, somewhere around midway through the fuel run. Those tires are just going to be pretty much equal at that point, so you're not going to be picking up a whole lot more time. The big factor here is going to be if these two can stay nose to tail like they have been and kind of get that draft, pick up a little bit extra speed to try to close in on that race leader in the 16.
Yeah, I think Blair Holloman's going to be in a world of hurt here shortly, though, as he was one of only the two drivers. Him and Kevin Winker came down and took 2 tires that time. Only 7.5 second pit stops trying to help their strategy out. And Blair Holloman is going to have a window or a mirror full of Lucas Lyons right here, as well as Michael York. Michael York into the top 5, looking to make up even more here tonight, as he is just running great out there as he's making his push to get in the playoffs. This is exactly what I signed up for tonight, Brandon, when I wanted to commentate here with you. As always, this race is exciting as ever, as we're already past halfway.
This has just been fantastic racing as we got Lucas Lyons getting a little bit of a push from Michael York on the inside of Blair Holloman. This will be for the third and fourth positions should they both make this pass. Kevin Winker starting to pick himself into this battle as well as he's closing in behind that 5 of Michael York.
Yes.
And, don't count out Winker out of this playoff battle either. If he has a good showing here, he's still mathematically eligible.
Yeah, people perking up their eyebrows now seeing these guys on 2 drivers battle up here with the leaders. But that leader, Dave Fuchs Jr., is getting bigger and bigger in their windshields as they are just eating him up with those 6-lap pressure tires. That lead down to 0.7 of a second. And I have a feeling this is going to be his last lap without a lot of pressure on his tailgate.
Well, it's not just the tire differential, though. It's that draft factor. He's had no help in front of him, which is normally a good thing if you're the race leader. You don't want to see anybody out in front of you. But when you got that pack that's, we talked about it, it's almost like a mini super speedway, the way that they run with this package here at Las Vegas. That draft does play a factor and just gives you that little bit of a boost as you make your way around, especially on the straightaways.
Well, how about this? Coming into this race, did we think that we would have 2 drivers sitting outside the cut battling for the race lead as we're going to have Michael York trying to make a pass on Sean Jensick to get up to second and then potentially make a move here on Dave Fuchs Jr. for the lead?
And desperation does some things, and we're seeing some guys going all out trying to get this race win as we got 3 wide for the lead and give it to Michael York in the 5, and he's going to pick up yet another lap lead. Sean Jensick going to try to take a look on the outside, and he's going to have a great run, but York really able to drive that in deep into turn 1.
Yeah, these trucks really stick to the bottom of the track. That's something that I'm seeing here. As I mentioned, those bumps in turns 1 and 2 are not friendly to the Xfinity cars at all. But, man, these trucks look really fast down there on the bottom as he made that look easy and potentially going to pull away a little bit from the field now.
But as we just saw, you don't necessarily want to get too far away, especially with everybody getting lined up behind, because they can make that run that we just saw. It's just weird how it's a 1.5 mile track. It's Las Vegas. You would barely think anything like Daytona, but it's kind of got that vibe to it with the way that these guys are running.
Yeah, so Bobby Anderson, one of those drivers that was sitting on the cut line in 14th, he is running 6th, so doing a great job. But running the math through my head right now, Michael York, I don't believe would be able to catch him with how they sit right now. It'd be close. But Michael York has that 15 spot wrapped up. So Bobby Anderson still looking good inside the cut as they run. Going to need to keep up that good run. Rob Yost, though, sitting back there in 24th. That's going to be a driver we're going to have to pay attention to here as this race unfolds. With Dave Fuchs Jr. running up here in the top 5, that could spell trouble for Yost.
Yeah, Yost is in trouble. Kerr obviously in trouble. We saw his issues earlier tonight. I also think Kyle Wimble is going to be kind of on the edge right now as he's sitting around the 20th position, but he's had a pretty good head start into this race, so he should be pretty safe, but that's somebody that's a little bit in the danger zone right now. But Michael York doing everything he can to try to move up, and Kevin Winker, Bobby Anderson, Dave Fuchs, they're all doing what they have to do to try to secure one of those top 15 spots as well. Everybody in the top 10 is either inside the top 15 now or just outside and with a shot to move in.
Yeah, Jack Johnson needing that 23rd place finish to clinch his spot in the top 15, running 20th as we speak. So he's doing what he has to do after getting involved in that skirmish on lap 1. But yeah, York with the freshest tires in the top 10, showing that out there on the track as he just passed all those cars to surge up to the front. This top 3 kind of breaking away now as they have some of the freshest tires out there on the track, really showing it. Kevin Winker, like I mentioned, on those 2 sets of tires, kind of starting to fall away from him, but he's running 4th, still within striking distance.
And amazingly enough, it's been 23 laps since Dave Fuchs Jr. came in to start that last pit cycle. So we're starting to get to that point where you got to start thinking again. You can easily make it the rest of the way from here if it stays green. So now it's going to be a question. When do you make that pit stop? When do you try an undercut? Do you even try that undercut? Do you try to stay out as long as you can, thinking maybe a caution's going to come out? A whole lot of decision making about to start for these guys that are trying to make that desperation play to move into the top 15.
Yeah, and Brad Herman, one of those drivers who we saw involved in that first or only caution of the night, needing a good run to make his way into the top 15, sits in 15th right now. So he's been picking up those spots, but is going to need some help potentially in the fashion of a caution to get in that top 15. So
this is tight. This is getting real tight now with these guys trying to get into that playoff positioning.
Did you get Sean? I'm just going to tell you to come over and tell everybody that. We're going to bring in our producer Sean here to give us an update on the points because he just told us a whole lot of stuff in our ear. And I'm pretty sure Brandon and I were just sitting there like the deer in headlights.
I've gone cross-eyed.
Well, lots of math. You guys work on racing. I work on the math side of things. So basically right now, if things held exactly the way they are right now, Lucas Lyons would be in, Jack Johnson would be in, Kyle Wimble would be in, Joseph DuPont, Mike Mosby, Bobby Anderson would all be in. Michael York would be the 14th driver. Robert Yost would be the 15th driver by a mere 2 points over Kevin Winker and Dave Fuge. And so really, I mean, that cut line still only 4 points separates 5 drivers right now.
Yeah, so really that next pit stop is going to be the money pit stop right there as Kevin Winker sits in 5th. And Rob Yost Jr. finds himself a little bit further down in the standings than he wants to be. So that's going to be the race to watch. He's climbed a few spots already up to 22nd. So those are the 2 points that have got him back into the top 15. So anything can happen out here. We're going to be watching those 2 drivers specifically.
And honestly, if you look at where the 2 that are just outside are running, you have Kevin Winker in 5th, Dave Fuge in 7th. Fuge almost has an easier opportunity to make up those points because he has more people in front of him that he's able to pass. Now, if he gets around Jacob Zala and gets near Kevin Winker, that race is going to be real intense. If they have anybody that's listening in and knows what we were just talking about point-wise, if they know that they're fighting for that final position and it's down to those 2, that's going to be real entertaining if they get near each other.
Now, am I crazy to think if I'm trying to hit a home run, an absolute grand slam, if I'm Dave Fuge Jr., am I crazy to think, screw it, I'll come down pit right now just to give me that many more laps on fresh tires?
Yeah, that is not crazy at all. And in fact, I mean, he started it at lap 30. We're getting about 30 laps into this run again, and it's going to set up a final 20 laps. I would try it once again, and in fact, we're starting to hear some driver chat pop up here, and I think it's going to be Dave Fuge Jr. going to be the first one down. And
Make
here he
me
comes.
Look smart, Dave. Oh, no! Oh, man.
Oh, my goodness.
Wanting to get everything he can out of that.
I take back what I said about lap 1 having the save of the night. That was the save of the night right there.
Yeah, saving his season. Boy, man. I love it when they make me look smart, though, because I'm thinking that whole time, like, you know what? What's there to lose? There's only things to gain, and that's positions and time on the leaders. And you don't want to give those guys too many laps to catch up to you. So if they want to stay out there, that's their call. But I'm coming down right now.
And the other big thing about it, too, like the only thing that can go wrong at this point is a caution comes out between coming into the pits and when everybody else makes that stop. And if it happens, it happens. That's just something you got to live with. That's part of the game. But if it doesn't happen, this is a real big move that can set you up to pick up a lot of points. Yeah, as we're down to 20 to go, coming to the stripe for 19. This race, like I said, is going to fly by. This is a very fast-paced 1.5-mile track with lots of action out there and all kinds of strategies, which is making it an absolute... I knew this was going to be just like Kansas when we saw this on the schedule. So I'm thrilled to get down to the end of this race and see what happens, but we still have 19 laps to go. Another thing that's great about this one, it's just a short race distance-wise, 120 miles, 80 laps around this track. It kind of fits in perfect with the fuel strategy and making it where there's a little bit of a gamble involved as Lucas Lyons down to pit road now with 18 laps to go. At this point, if I'm staying out there, I'm starting to wonder what's the benefit of going too much farther,
Yeah.
aside from hoping that a caution comes out as Troy Techmeyer coming in now. But you're not going to get a whole lot of gain out of staying out another, say, 6 laps and getting 12 laps on fresh tires.
If I'm Michael York, I'm coming down this time.
There you go.
Oh, he might have missed it. Oh. I think no commitment cone there, because that would have been bad for the driver of the 5 machine.
Big point here.
Yeah. That's
Bobby Anderson, bonus point.
That could be huge. We'll have to keep an eye on that to see if that gets him into the playoffs with that 1 point. It's going to come down to the narrowest of margins with these drivers here in this cutoff race. We've waited 13 weeks to get to this point, Brandon. We are reaping the benefits of this whole league here as they are putting on a heck of a show. Bobby Anderson coming down pit road this time. That's going to give the bonus point to Kevin Winker, who needs it. So that cancels that out.
And that is one of those times where you do want to stay out that extra lap. If you're running in second and you hear the other person that's in front of you say, I'm going to pit, and you need that bonus point still, stay out that extra lap. That's worth that gamble. But for most everybody else, I'm not too sure about continuing to stay out at this point just because there's so few laps left.
Well, I can tell you 2 drivers who will stay out, and that's going to be Beyer and Cardullo. We've seen them do this a number of times where they stay out longer than anybody, and we're going to sit here and question it, and it's going to work out for them. But I know that they are strictly on bonus point hunting mode, and that's what they're going to do. They're going to stay out there as long as they can. But right now, Jacob Zala has that position to get those bonus points as he led that lap this time by. Looks like he's going to go down low to kind of signal that he might be pitting. I've seen him come over comms, so I believe this 25 will pit this time, but I'm guaranteeing you that 66 and 13 will stretch this out for as long as possible.
Oh, sorry about that. I saw him get to the apron a little early and start sliding back up, and it was right in front of Sean Jensick. They did a great job of avoiding contact, so no harm, no foul there. As we see Beyer holding the lead, and he's going to get right in front of Blair Holloman, who's going to get a little bit loose. Maybe a little contact as well with Sean Jensick. That was tight there, and that's the difference of fresh tires against these really worn tires that Beyer has right now, and you can see that speed difference.
Yeah, nowhere for Jensick to go there, as they weren't anticipating that 66 to go down to the bottom line. Beyer really going to have to signal where he's going here because they don't really know, and they are a lot faster. As these guys have fresh tires, they're getting their lap back and battling one another at the same time because these are 2 of our leaders out there on track. So this is a tight battle between the 29 and the 06. So that was a very, very sketchy situation for those guys.
Real dicey, and the good news for them, if it went wrong, is these 4 all in that tight pack right there for a moment are all locked in already. Kind of just going for those bonus points and picking up a race win as we see Dave Fuge Jr. now starting to take a peek on the outside of Landon Cardullo, who's currently running in second. So it looks like, I'm trying to do the math on this and figure it all out, it looks like it's going to cycle around to Sean Jensick to the race lead with Blair Holloman in second and Dave Fuge Jr. in third as it runs right now once the top 8 drivers all make the pit stop that they have yet to make.
Yeah, I think Sean Jensick was a driver that took 2 tires that time. Seeing how it worked for those guys previously, I think he is going to have a nice little lead all to himself. I think he's out in front of Dave Fuge Jr., so not what Fuge wanted to see by any means. Now Beau Tiffany, who I mentioned has been getting his feet wet here in the Truck Series, up front now, and this is a special truck for him as he is riding on board with an angel up in heaven here, one of his good friends who he lost to cancer. So a great truck here out on track, and I love seeing it up front.
And Beau Tiffany, no stranger to being up front, especially as of late in these truck races, driving with a little bit extra meaning here tonight, as he's going to be the leader with 10 laps to go, as we got Kyle Wimble, Michael Madden coming down to pit road, both getting a little bit squirrely there as they kind of got it slowed down all the way to that 45-mile-an-hour pit speed limit. And once again, it does look, and it's going to be Beau Tiffany pitting this time as he came around the driver chat. And so it should be Jensick, and now Fuge gets around Holloman as we just saw that change on the pylon. So it should be Jensick in first, but he's going to have some close company behind him. Oh, speaking of close.
Wow. Oh, no.
Oh, no.
Oh. Man, he just gets loose heading into the pits, and that is Tough for the 0-1, man.
As AJ Pritchett coming in a little bit slower, and I think that caught Beau Tiffany off guard and just kind of set up that chain reaction there for the two of them. But up in front, it's Sean Jensick. There's the 16 of Dave Fuchs Jr. He's got Michael York behind him, Lucas Lyons behind him, and Blair Holloman going to round out the top 5. But we got a single file line separated by a second for the top 6.
With 8 laps to go, we have some hungry drivers up front. Michael York making a move to the inside of Dave Fuchs Jr. with those freshest tires in this pack. He's got to be careful to not mix it up too much with these guys and get himself into trouble. He's run an absolutely perfect race all race long tonight. He's got to finish it off, though, with 8 laps to go. I think right now he's sitting in a good position, so he's got to get that in his head. But he can't let that 16 win this race. So what do you do out there?
You just go. You got to just let it all out at this point. You can't think. And the best thing for that 16 truck of Dave Fuchs Jr. was how much Lyons and York were racing each other side by side and just wearing out that little bit of a tire advantage that they have just a little bit more, as Lucas Lyons going to take a look to the inside of Dave Fuchs Jr. That'll be for the second position. He's going to get the nose out front. Michael York's going to try to go through that open door as well.
Hey, someone we're not paying attention to, 9/10 behind them. Brad Herman's up to 8 or a 5th. So, Sean, I'm going to bring you back in. That would give him the spot over Michael York, am I correct?
Right now, it's you kind of put me on the spot there, so sorry about that. Yes, so coming into this race, Brad Herman was 5 points ahead of Michael York. So, in theory, right now, yes, Brad Herman would get in instead of Michael York. There's obviously some other stuff going on with James Kerr being out of it already, basically. And so, where does Bobby Anderson finish? Where does Robert Yost finish? So, lots of things still to be decided. It's going to be an interesting 6 laps.
Yeah, right now I'm guessing Michael York needs to just win this race for his best shot to get in. So, we'll see if he's able to do so. We're coming to the stripe this time. 5 laps to go. He's not going to have much time to do that.
And a couple other names that were just mentioned there that are factoring into this. Bobby Anderson running in 8th. You have Kyle Wimble is going to be sitting in the 19th position. Robert Yost is the last car on the lead lap in 26th.
Oh, well, yeah, that's going to not be where Rob Yost wants to be. If he's trying to get in on the top 15, he's going to try and pick up a spot here on Beau Tiffany, I believe. So, yeah, Rob Yost going to need to get all the spots he can with these last 5 laps. We'll see if he's able to get any more. But up front, nothing's changed between Jensick and Lyons, but Michael York starting to close the gap on these two. He is going to have to win this race, I believe, to have a shot at getting into that top 15. So, this is it.
If he does, there's another name we haven't really mentioned tonight that's kind of flirting with disaster, and that's Jack Johnson. He's running in the 21st position. We said that he needs 23rd or better. He is not in that spot by much right now with 3 laps to go.
Yeah, so going to have to keep that truck pointed in the right direction. Michael York losing a little time to these guys. I think we might see a little battle between Rev Racing teammates. Sean Jensick already has 2 wins on the season, 1 last week at Michigan. Lucas Lyons, though, another rookie, his rookie teammate, wants that first win here bad in SRN. So we'll see exactly what happens. We'll see if he's able to maybe put a bumper to his teammate. I don't know what's going to unfold here in these last 2 laps, but that is what the signal caller on top of the flag stand's giving them. 2 laps to go here tonight at Vegas.
It's almost picking up from Michigan. These are 2 of the best trucks that we had in that race until Lucas Lyons got caught up in some trouble late. But they have been great the past couple weeks. They've really been great all season long, so why not end the regular season with 2 of the super rookies here this season?
Brad Herman up to 4th place now, so he has picked up another position. Sitting there just behind his teammate Michael York, but coming to the stripe this time by 1 lap to go. Sean Jensick takes the stripe. Not too much distance, just a car length between him and his teammate Lucas Lyons as they go through turns 1 and 2.
Lyons trying that high entry, low exit, trying to get a big run out of that final, out of turn 2 down the back straightaway. Doesn't look like it's going to be enough unless he can make a huge dive into 3.
Yeah, sending it into turn 3. Sean Jensick feels like he's got this, but Lucas Lyons gets a big run. He's got to be careful not to get in the wall. And Sean Jensic going to win tonight for the Gettin Lucky 120. Goes back-to-back at Michigan and Las Vegas. So congrats to the 29. We're going to try and get our producer, Sean Griffith, to work to see just who made it in the cut and who did not.
One thing you can say is holy momentum for the driver of the 29 going into the playoffs, doing his best Ryan Blaney impersonation right now. Back-to-back wins to close out the regular season, and he's got all kinds of momentum going his direction once we get to Kentucky next week.
Oh, yeah, man. It's just, these guys put in a lot of time out there in practice, and it's really showing out there on the track, especially as we get closer and closer. And now we are in playoff season as we have wrapped up the race here at Las Vegas for the Gettin Lucky 120. So Sean Jensic definitely feeling good about his chances as he's burning it down with his teammates. Michael Madden also there in the mix. He was running up front too, so a great performance tonight for these Rev Racing guys.
And while they celebrate, one thing I want to say, and I've heard a few say it already on the driver chat, we talked about how great Kansas was. This is right up there with that race. This was absolutely fantastic tonight, and what a way to end the regular season.
Oh, man, yes. It was. Like I told you guys, I had a comedy show to go to before the race. I really wanted to get back for this, and this is exactly why. It was a thrilling show out there, and these guys put on a great show all season long for this regular season here at Speed Racing Network. But let's go ahead and give you the full rundown of our top 20 here tonight. Sean Jensic comes home with the win again for his third win of the season, and I believe that is the most out of any Truck Series driver this year. Lucas Lyons coming home runner-up in second, so Rev Racing top 2. Then the next two going to be Next Level Motorsports. Michael York with a big run he needed tonight coming home in third. Brad Herman, a big surge to the front after that first caution tonight, gets all the way up to fourth. And then Dave Hughes Jr. These are three guys that were sitting outside the cut, finishing in the top 5. Dave Hughes comes home in 5th.
It's going to be a nerve-wracking few minutes for those three, trying to figure out if they've done enough tonight, but a great effort in the process. 6th place, one of the drivers locked in entering the night, Blair Holloman. 7th is Bobby Anderson. He's going to be wondering if he's done enough, as he wasn't far ahead of that cut line either, as he finishes 7th. Joseph DuPont, do believe he did enough to keep one of those spots in the top 15 with an 8th place finish. Kevin Winker, one of those guys close to being in as well in 9th. Andrew Harris rounds out the top 10.
It's just wild seeing all these guys that were sitting outside the cut running so good tonight. Mike Mosby coming home in 11th tonight for Zuyos Racing. Jonathan Byer, a quiet 12th place. He gets a bonus point tonight. 13th going to go to Landon Cardulo. 14th, Cody Riggs getting back up there. He's one of those drivers that was 3 points outside of the cut. He also had a good run, found himself in trouble in that first caution, but got back up to 14th. And Jacob Zala going to round out our top 15.
16th place, Bruce Amston. Looks like his season is going to come just short of making the playoffs in the original 15. Kyle Wimble in 17th place. He's going to be waiting a little bit as well to see if he's done enough. Brad Rivers will be the 18th place driver. 19th will be Jack Johnson. He did enough to clinch his spot, as we knew he needed a 23rd or better. Troy Techmeyer will round out the top 20.
All right, well, let's all take a collective breath after that race before we get into the post-race interviews. And, let's go ahead and bring Michael York up into the booth here for his top 3 finish tonight. Michael, it's Greg Olenek and Brandon Domain. Congrats on the 3rd place, man, and potentially getting yourself in the top 15. We have Sean frantically working the numbers right now, so you'll have to stand by. But tell us about that race tonight and how you're feeling, man.
Oh, what a drive, man. I hope it was enough. That was the best race I've probably had in my whole SRN career by far, and I needed it when it counted. I ran a practice race here on Monday with another league, so that was a lot of preparation. So, I mean, that was fun. That was incredible, really. I got some damage cycling in between pit stops from hitting the 13. I apologize for that. I didn't know he's going low. I was on the fresh tires. I think that hurt me a little bit, but other than that, overall, it was a great race.
And we saw you be one of the guys that was really trying to stay out a little bit later on that first run. How do you think that set you up for the second and the final stop of the race in that last little stint there? Did you think that was the right play looking back, or is there anything you wish you did a little bit different tonight?
The only thing I wish I did different was pit when the 29 did. Me, the 29, and the 7 were pretty even. I don't know what happened to Beyer, but he was really good on that first long run too. Yeah, I think I stayed out one lap too late on the last pit stop there. The first one played out in my favor. I was starting, I had about 4/10 lead on second place, so I played the first half right, not the second. I pitted a lap too late, but I'm more than happy with the third place finish right now.
Yeah, man, one of your best runs by far this year. You've had a lot of bad luck, so congrats on getting back up here on the podium here in SRN. We always knew you had the talent to do so. It's good to see you get up here. But before we let you go, do you have any friends, any family, any sponsors you want to give a shout out to?
Yeah, I want to first off give a shout out to my team: Brad Herman, Stan Carnathan, Brad Rivers, Troy Techmeyer. Brad, I don't know if I said Herman, dude. I'm freaking out right now, hoping I made these playoffs. But no, man, I had Holster up in the booth with me tonight, and he was coaching me the whole way. I think that definitely helped a lot. Just shout out to all the next level guys. My sponsor, TJ's team, morethancape.org. Check them out as for kids pediatric cancer. So that's I'm happy to have them on board, and just shout out to all my friends and fellow league members out there that tuned in. I hope it was a good show. Thank you, guys.
Well, Brandon, I will give you the floor here. Go ahead, and I think you have a little bit of good news here, potentially.
Yeah, so unofficial, they're still having to double check everything, but unofficially, that third place finish was enough tonight to get into the top 15.
I hope so, man. Dude, Holster was doing the math, and I'm like, where'd these guys finish? Where'd they finish? The last 10 laps, he's just telling me, he's like, don't worry about them. Just run your race. Try to get this win. That'll all sort itself out, man. Oh, dude, I'm sweating. I hope Brad made it too, man. That was the goal tonight. The goal tonight was to get me and Herman in, and then get one of our other teammates in for the playoff lucky dog. So if we accomplish that tonight, I mean, this is by far there's been a lot of things that have happened this season. A lot of bad luck. So just to be able to be in this situation is almost a miracle. Just a lot of hard work by the guys, man. That was the goal, is just to get us in and see what happens.
Well, keep an eye out on the standings in the Discord for that official listing. But yeah, man, could potentially have the slate wiped clean next week for some playoff action at Kentucky, Mike. So we'll look forward to seeing you out there in that 5 truck and seeing what you can do.
I appreciate you guys. Can't wait to watch this back. That was fun. This was like the first race I even led a few laps, dude.
Well, he's on cloud 9, but so we'll let you go back and celebrate with your teammates, man. Congrats.
Thanks, man. Appreciate it. Thank you, guys.
All right. Well, that was a very excited and animated Michael York, as unofficially we're getting word that he is into the playoffs. We'll have to wait for the official count from our admins. But, man, I love being able to give people the good news there. So congrats to Michael York, and we'll see if he's able to get his teammate Brad Herman in as well. Still crunching numbers frantically here. But let's go ahead now and move on to our second place finisher and bring Lucas Lyons up to the booth. Lucas, it's Greg Olenek and Brandon Domain up here in the SRN booth. Congrats on the runner-up tonight, bud. A battle with your teammate there at the end. Unable to come away with the win, but a great run nonetheless, locking yourself into the playoffs. Congrats again. Tell us how you're feeling.
It might not be a win, but I'll really take it. I felt like I've had a really rough rookie season, in my opinion. There's been multiple tracks I've had circled on schedule, like Watkins Glen, Michigan, tracks like that, and I felt like I didn't perform to my team's expectation of me, and I'm really proud.
Well, yeah, and you talk about, a few of those tracks that you had circled and really wanting to do well. How do you feel about Kentucky as we get those playoffs started next week? Because you're definitely in there after that second place tonight.
Well, all I gotta say is it's my home track because I'm from Kentucky. So if I don't perform well, I don't know. I don't know how I'm gonna be able to handle that. So hopefully I can go perform exactly how I did tonight, be up front most of the race, and hopefully end up battling another teammate once again.
Yeah, well, we've seen you perform really well under pressure this season, so we look forward to seeing you do that again next week at your home track for the first race of the playoffs. But before we let you go, you got any friends, any family, any sponsors you want to give a shout out to?
Well, first, I want to thank my dad for watching. I don't know if my mom's watching. If you are, thank you as well. Elaney, Long MacArthur, Silverback, Tax Solutions, just Sparkle and Shine, everybody, the whole Revs Association, and just everyone who's believes in me. Mike Campbell, who's a really good friend of mine, and yeah, I don't know. I'm really excited, honestly.
Well, we love hearing that excitement, man, and you performed great out there tonight, so I'm sure your parents loved watching this race. I'm sure they will be watching next week when we get to Kentucky, but for now, we're going to let you go back down, celebrate with your teammates, but before that, we're going to have to bring your other teammate, Sean Jensick, up here in the booth, so congrats again, man, and have a good night.
Thank you.
All right, well, that was another very excited driver. I don't know if it's excitement, Brandon, or if it's more so relief.
Yeah, it's probably a good mix of both, I would imagine. But one guy that we're about to talk to, not really much of anything he had to worry about tonight, as he was already locked in coming in.
Yeah, so let's go ahead now, bring up tonight's winner, Sean Jensick. We talked to you last week in Victory Lane. We're going to talk to you this week in Victory Lane 2 in Vegas, man. Congrats again on tonight's win. Tell us how that feels to go back-to-back.
Thank you. Appreciate it. It feels great. It was just a great race by all the Rev drivers there. We really got that track down with all that practice we did this week, and I know I wasn't able to be there as much as some of the other guys, but showed with some of the results there, and a great finish there from Lucas. So.
And we were just talking about at the end of that race that you kind of got that Ryan Blaney momentum going, couple wins to close out the regular season as we get to Kentucky next week. How's that momentum feel as we get ready to start the playoff?
I've been waiting for this all season, and I can't really complain. There's really not a better time to start hitting my stride. Going right into the playoffs, we're going to keep going with this momentum, and I got good tracks, in the playoffs. So hopefully we keep that up, get some good finishes there, and see where it takes us.
Well, your third win on the season, man. That's huge, as that's the most out of any driver in the Truck Series this season. So congrats again to you. But before we let you go, you got any friends, any family, any sponsors you want to give a shout out to?
Well, I'm 2 for 2. My roommates are watching, so first want to go shout them out. Want to go shout out my teammates at Rev Racing. Want to shout out to Long MacArthur, Sparkle and Shine, and Silverback Tax Solutions. And I want to give a shout out especially to Lucas there. Just really not racing me there until the end. Just staying in line, helping us pull away, and securing that 1-2 finish for us.
Well, yeah, big night for you and your teammates, man. You all looked really fast out there tonight. We look forward to seeing that speed next week at Kentucky. We'll see if you can go make a three-peat out of it. So congrats again, man, and have a good night. And also, can you ask your roommates to start watching me?
I got you, no problem.
All right, buddy. Well, take care and go have fun celebrating, man.
Thank you.
I was about to say there might be 14 drivers in the Truck Series about to find a way to get his roommates out of the room next week.
Yeah, no kidding. All right, well, this is it. This is the unofficial standings of everybody who's made it in. And there you see it on the cut line. Brad Herman and Michael York sneak into the playoffs. And that's going to kick Robert Yost out, as well as James Kerr, who fell all the way to 20th. So big moves for those guys at Next Level Motorsports.
That was absolutely huge, and Michael was saying, he wanted to get in, wanted to get Brad in as well. If it came down to the lucky dog, it came down to the lucky dog. They don't even need it. They both get themselves in from the outside into the top 15 after that race, and that just goes to show you one good night can change a season.
Yeah, potentially get another one of their teammates with the lucky dog next week at Kentucky. So we'll see these guys in red battle it out next week. Like we said, at Kentucky Speedway for the Bluegrass 125. We got 3 different races pretty much happening out there on track. We got the playoffs, round of 15 for all those drivers that are locked into the top 15. We've got the playoff lucky dog to keep an eye on next week to see who's going to be that 16th driver getting into the playoffs, as well as the team championship playoffs all starting next week. So, Brandon, we are going to have our work cut out for us.
Yeah, and oh, by the way, there's also just a race on the track going at the same time.
That too.
So a whole lot going on. It's going to be a long one for us to figure out how to call everything that's going to be happening in Kentucky. But yeah, can't wait for that one. Another track that's going to be very similar to Kansas and Vegas. I expect a fantastic race once again as we get those playoffs kicked off for the Truck Series next week.
Yeah, so catch that next week, October 20th, same time as always, 9:30 p.m., or actually 10 o'clock p.m. Eastern Time, 9 p.m. Central Time. But we have some playoff action this week. Wasn't in the trucks, but man, we are kicking it off in the Xfinity Series tomorrow, as well as Sunday in the Cup Series. We are going playoff racing for Week 1 action for the Gettin Lucky 150 at Las Vegas Motor Speedway. Brandon, I'm in the playoffs. You are looking for that lucky dog to get in as you were just 1 point out. So, yeah, you have a lot of work to do tomorrow, and I expect to see you up front, man.
I hope to see myself up front in that one, but yeah, you know, we get to have a good talking point that we can start with for Sunday night's race when it comes down to the difference between playoff racing and racing for that lucky dog. We're both going to get some feels for that one as you're sitting there. I believe it's leading the way with the bonus points to start it off.
Yeah, it's been a great year for myself, but man, I'm really pulling for you out there tomorrow at Las Vegas. I'm going to be keeping an eye on that 20 machine for sure. So if you guys want to go ahead and tune in tomorrow again for some more great Las Vegas racing action. You saw how awesome it was out there. We had 1 caution for 4 laps, 15 lead changes in just an 80-lap race. So it was absolutely action-packed amongst these trucks drivers. I expect all the same tomorrow for the Xfinity Series. So please tune in October 14th. That's tomorrow, 8:30 p.m. Central Time, 9:30 p.m. Eastern Time. But that is going to do it for us for now. So for myself, Greg Olenek, my co-host Brandon Domain, as well as our producer Sean Griffith, we wish you a good night and go faster.